Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharma swarupine avatar varishtaya Ramakrishnaya te namah.
May 1st, 2022. Like every other day, the golden sun rising from behind the holy waters of the Ganges touches the crest of the Sri Ramakrishna temple at Belur. The flowing Ganges, bathed in the rays of the sun, has been a witness to the 125-year journey of the Ramakrishna mission. As the mission reaches a historic milestone, we remember the prophetic words of Swami Vivekananda. The spiritual impact that has come here to Belur will last 1,500 years. Sri Ramakrishna had affectionately told Swami Vivekananda that he was ready to go anywhere with his favorite disciple. I will go and live wherever it will be your pleasure to take me. On February 27th, 1898, Swamiji Vivekananda carried the holy ashes of his master from Nilambar Mukherjee's garden house to the site chosen for the establishment of Belur. The land was located on the western bank of the Ganges, diagonally opposite the Dakshineshwar temple. On December 9th, 1898, the Mat, or the monastery, and mission were formally shifted to this land. Today, the worldwide activities of the Ramakrishna Mat and mission are monitored from its headquarters at Belur. The 256 branches include 119 Mat centers and 137 mission centers that propagate the gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. The 191 branches within India, spread over 27 states and union territories, are known for their numerous service projects. A monk's main goal is to attain moksha, liberation, through self-realization. Influenced by the ideals of his master, Swami Vivekananda fused this age-old idea of monasticism with the concept of organized service. A monk's life will be for the good of many, for the happiness of many. The motto of this new monastic order became Atmano Mokshatam Jagat Hitaya Cha, or for one's own salvation and for the good of the world. It was from Sri Ramakrishna that Swami Vivekananda had first heard that Brahman, or God, is manifested in the world and in every being. One must serve one's fellow beings as the living God. Shiva Jnane, Jiva Sheva. Serve Jiva, people, as Shiva, God. This constitutes the essence of Swamiji's concept of practical Vedanta, which he wanted the monks to implement in the order through their every thought and action. Sri Ramakrishna always said that truth was the greatest austerity of this age. Following him, Swami Vivekananda would also say, everything can be sacrificed for truth, but truth cannot be sacrificed for anything. In their search for the truth and the ideal, both the master and the disciple have sometimes chosen paths different from others. An incident from Sri Ramakrishna's childhood illustrates this. Young Gatahar, the child Ramakrishna, had promised Dani, the midwife who had helped his mother give birth, that during his sacred thread ceremony, he would accept the first ceremonial alms from her only. 186 years ago, it was unthinkable for a young Brahmin boy to receive his ceremonial alms from a woman of a lower caste. Naturally, there was much opposition, but the 9-year-old Gadahar was able to convince his family that his inability to keep his word given to Dani would mean for him a serious deviation from the ideal of a Brahmin. The closed society of almost 200 years ago conceded defeat to this 9-year-old child. Sri Ramakrishna's spiritual practices led him to declare Jatomat Tatopat, as many faiths, so many paths. Sri Ramakrishna's life and message transcend all boundaries of race, region, and religion. Sri Ramakrishna always said that the ultimate aim of all religions was the realization in different aspects of one and the same truth. The early life of Swami Vivekananda also has many instances reflecting his search for truth. Every day, several people would come to see his father, attorney Vishwanath Dutta. Each of them was provided with an earmarked hookah, separate for different castes and religions. Swami Vivekananda was curious to learn what misfortune would befall a person if he smoked a hookah meant for another person. One day, he took a whiff from all the hookahs. He was satisfied that nothing untoward happened to him by this act of breaking caste. Swami Vivekananda's most important teaching was the divinity of man, and, based on that divine identity, the oneness of all. The Ramakrishna mission is based on this ideal. That is why, although it is a spiritual organization, it is engaged in extensive service, irrespective of caste, creed, and religion. The Ramakrishna mission's object is to help people attain the ultimate goal of self-realization. The mission achieves this by gradually fulfilling their physical, mental, intellectual, and spiritual needs.
Like in South Africa, in Fiji, in Mauritius, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, many countries in which the Ramakrishna mission is active, where both are done. There is spiritual teaching, the transmission of India's ancient spiritual wisdom, but also educational services, medical services, poverty alleviation programs, increasingly in Africa, not only in South Africa, but in Lusaka, in Zambia, and other areas we are considering expanding our activities, where there is a lot to be done in terms of service to suffering humanity. If you go to America, you will find the emphasis is on the transmission of spirituality, on the teaching of Vedanta, on yoga, teaching of bhakti, which people there probably need more and more.
Sri Ramakrishna ended his mortal activities in 1886. For 5 years after this, Vivekananda traveled extensively through India, sometimes by train and sometimes on foot, sometimes going without food for days, and sometimes receiving royal hospitality. This travel gave him an opportunity to know his country with all its strengths and weaknesses. He also realized that underlying the diversity of the country, there was a oneness of spiritual vision. On September 11th, 1893, Vivekananda presented his first lecture at the Parliament of Religions in Chicago. The spirit of universality in the lecture completely captivated the audience. Overnight, he became famous. But that night, sleep eluded him. Lying on the floor in his luxurious room, he cried all night, thinking of the poverty-stricken masses of India. Swamiji realized that all the wealth in the world would not help one little Indian village if the people were not taught to become self-reliant. He also realized that the only way for the nation to move forward was through education. Swamiji's catchword regarding education was Western science coupled with Vedanta. Swamiji strongly believed that an equal opportunity for education had to be made available to all. Today, besides an esteemed university, the Ramakrishna Mission has 540 schools and colleges, 1,056 night schools, non-formal schools, and coaching centers. Swami Vivekananda had handed over to his disciple, Sister Nivedita, the task of making the status of Indian women on par with the best he had seen in the West. The Ramakrishna Math and Ramakrishna Mission have carried this forward by admitting girls into many of their educational institutions. In 2020-21, the total number of boys receiving their education at Ramakrishna Mission institutions was 83,331, and the total number of girls was 50,220. The total cost incurred by the order to run these institutions in 2020-21 was over $56 million. Besides this, the Math and Mission regularly hold workshops, technical training programs, and seminars through which several thousand people are benefited. The Ramakrishna Math and Ramakrishna Mission also run non-formal educational centers in rural and inaccessible areas.
It was a time when Ramakrishna Mission sadhus approached them to provide them education, provide them health facilities, but they'll be chasing down. That is their nature. They don't accept anybody from outside. Now, after 50 years of service, instead of sadhus, the monks going to their hamlets somewhere deep inside forest, these people come back to Ramakrishna Mission and be in line that somehow take my son to your institute, because that is providing the best. That has brought in education, that has brought in culture, that has brought in patriotism, that has brought in development. They feel without Ramakrishna Mission, in Arunachal I am telling, they feel without Ramakrishna Mission, Arunachal would have never become what it is today. There are mostly 15 centers in Northeast. Out of that, 8 centers are dedicated exclusively for tribal people. 1 in Manipur, that is in Imphal, 4 in Arunachal, another 2 in Meghalaya, in form of Shillong and Cherrapunji. They have sub-centers, but this is how it is going on.
The light of Swamiji's vision has today spread across the world. As one enters the gates of Belur, one comes across an impressive building on the right. This is the headquarters of the Ramakrishna Math and Mission, the nerve center of their worldwide activities. The organizational structure is headed by the revered president, and the administrative functions are managed by a governing body and a board of trustees, represented by the general secretary. Sri Ramakrishna trained a group of young disciples to be torchbearers of his message, and through them laid the foundation of the new Ramakrishna order. The seeds of the Math and Mission were sown in Dakshineshwar, where he spent most of his life, and at the Shampurpur and Kashipur houses. Sri Ramakrishna reached Kashipur on December 11th, 1885. Most of his young disciples came to Kashipur to stay with the Master and serve him. He poured into their hearts the fire of renunciation and the thirst for realizing the truth. One day, he distributed the saffron robes worn by monks and rosaries of Rudraksha beads to 11 of his future monastic disciples. To enable Narendra, Swami Vivekananda, to shoulder the arduous task of being their leader, the master gave him special training. Not only that, 3 or 4 days before his passing, he also mysteriously transmitted his powers to Narendra. Sri Ramakrishna later told him affectionately, "Today, giving you my all, I have become a fakir. With this power, you are able to do great things for the good of the world." One day, Sri Surendranath Mitra, a lay disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, received a divine command from the master to provide rent for a house in Calcutta where Narendra and his brother disciples could shift their monastery. A dilapidated building at Baranagar, infamous as a haunted house, was rented for the purpose. 2 other disciples, Balaram Bose and Girish Chandra Ghosh, also came forward with financial support. Taraknath and Gopal Sr. were the first to move to the monastery. They were followed by Narendra, Rakhal, Kali Prasad, Sharat, Shushi, Niranjan, Baburam, Shubot, Sharada Prashana, Jogin, Latu, and Gangadhar. In January 1887, Narendra, along with 9 other disciples, took formal monastic vows at the Baranagar Math. At the newly established Math, the young monks lived a life of severe austerity, meditation, study, and prayer. The monks would meditate through the day and sometimes late into the night. They lived on what chance brought them. There were days when they had nothing to eat. For months, they lived on boiled leaves and rice. But these inconveniences mattered little. They were swept away by a wave of ecstatic love and devotion for the Master and the ideals he had preached. A few days before Sri Ramakrishna's birth anniversary on February 29, 1892, the Baranagar Math shifted to Alambazar. Swamiji wrote several letters to his brother monks from America, urging them to stand by the poor and oppressed. He asked them to first ensure that people did not suffer from hunger, and later provide them with education so they could become self-reliant and stand by others. As America awakened to the Vedantic spirituality of Swami Vivekananda, whom they dubbed the cyclonic monk from India, he continued to instill in his brother monks at home the gospel of practical Vedanta and service through his inspiring letters. In these letters to his brother monks, he explained the need for an organization to carry out service activities and relief work in an organized manner. He also allotted duties, not only to the monks, but also to the lay disciples, for the smooth functioning of the future organization. He asked Rakhal, now Swami Brahmananda, to identify land in the surroundings of Calcutta as the permanent site for the Math, or monastery. In addition to establishing a permanent center in Calcutta, Swamiji wanted to open a center in Madras. He wrote asking his disciple Alasinga Perumal to look for land for the purpose. Swamiji sent Shushi, now Swami Ramakrishna, to Madras to explore the possibility of starting an ashram there.
He was the first to organize community dining, irrespective of caste, color or creed, on special days like Sri Ramakrishna's birthday. He himself would sit among all the common people belonging to all castes and communities. All without distinction were served with great reverence as the manifestation of God, Naranarayanas. It was the first time the South saw such a liberal spirit where a spiritual man like Swami Ramakrishna sat with the common men and ate with them. The Swami initiated the process of breaking down the caste barrier in the south by bringing together all people under the liberal teachings of Sri Ramakrishna.
Swamiji's vision was that the Math should be a place where purity and development of character would be given utmost importance. His mantra was, "Have faith in yourself. All power is within you. Be conscious and bring it out." Swamiji had great faith in his brother monks to carry forth the message and work of the Master. He instilled in them discipline, farsightedness, and the need to always work with the truth. His love for his brother disciples and the spirit of discipline he instilled in them have made the Ramakrishna Math and Ramakrishna Mission what they are today. This twin organization is a divine instrument to carry out all spiritual and humanitarian work with utmost devotion and sincerity. After Sri Ramakrishna's passing away, Sarada Devi, his divine wife, was the source of all spiritual inspiration for the young monks. They took her advice as the words of their master. She was the embodiment of the universal motherhood. She always stood by them and became a refuge for all. Since the passing of the master, she was Swami Vivekananda's rock of support, and he never took any major decision without consulting her. Swamiji returned from America to Calcutta on February 19, 1897, to a tumultuous welcome. A few days after this, he went to visit Sarada Devi. He expressed his anguish to her for the delay he was experiencing in setting up a Sangha to spread Sri Ramakrishna's message. She replied that Sri Ramakrishna would soon show him the way. Her simple answer put his mind at peace, and he felt encouraged. Soon after Swamiji returned to India, he called a meeting of his brother disciples. The meeting was held in Balaram Bose's house in Bagbagar on May 1st, 1897. There, Swamiji explained the aims and objectives of the organization he had in mind. He said it would preach Sri Ramakrishna's message of the divinity of mankind and also show by its work how that divinity could be realized. At the second meeting, on May 5th, the new order was named the Ramakrishna Mission Association. Swamiji became the general president and Swami Brahmananda the president of the Calcutta Center. 4 years later, the Ramakrishna Math was registered through a trust deed, and the Ramakrishna Mission became a registered society on May 4th, 1909. The monks of the order had an inclination for service, even before the formal inception of the Math and mission. Looking after the master during his illness, standing by each other's families in times of need, or being of service to the lay disciples whenever needed, had sown the seeds of service in the hearts of the monks. Among Swamiji's brother disciples, Swami Akhandananda responded most to Swamiji's call to serve the poor as God. When Swamiji founded the Ramakrishna Mission, Swami Akhandananda was away from Calcutta, traveling in an area north of Calcutta. A famine was raging in those districts, and he was shocked to see the misery and utter helplessness of the people. He settled down in a small village not far from a town affected by the famine. Within a few days of this, monks moved to the area and began relief services there. The people of Dakshineshwar village were also supplied with rice and other materials when they experienced bad flooding due to excessive rains. In 1898, exactly a year after the foundation of the Ramakrishna Mission, Calcutta saw an outbreak of plague. Swamiji, recuperating in Darjeeling, rushed back to Calcutta and convened a meeting of the monastics at the Math, which was then at Nilambar Mukherjee's garden house. Swamiji emphatically told his brother disciples, "We have assembled here in the name of God. We will have to nurse the plague-affected patients without caring for our lives. If necessary, we are ready to sell the mat premises or give up our lives for nursing and treating the plague-affected." The plague subsided that year, but reappeared with great severity the next year. The management of the relief work was placed in the hands of Sister Nivedita as president and secretary, and Swami Sadananda as the officer-in-chief. The dedication and sacrificing spirit of the relief workers served as a glowing inspiration for posterity. In 1900, a few young men started their service work in Benares by extending assistance to the helpless widows. Swamiji himself went to inspect the work being done there. He was satisfied and named the organization Home of Service. Swami Kalyanananda and Swami Nishchayananda went to the dwellings of the ailing sadhus in Haridwar and started serving them. This service by the monastics of the Ramakrishna mission was disdained by the orthodox sadhus of northern India, but the monks of the Ramakrishna mission did not retreat. They continued to serve the old and infirm sadhus, treating them with utmost care. The famine in the area north of Calcutta left behind some orphans who had to be taken care of. Swami Akhandananda readily took charge of 2 of them, forming the nucleus of the future Ramakrishna Mission ashrama at nearby Shargachi. The ashrama turned in stages to educational, philanthropic, and spiritual fields. This was the Ramakrishna Mission's first branch center. Swami Vivekananda said in his first speech at the Chicago Parliament of Religions, "We believe not only in universal tolerance, but we accept all religions as true." These words are lived by the monks of Ramakrishna Mission every day through their service activities, which are extended to people of all faiths. The mat at Alambazar suffered severe damage on June 12, 1897, due to an earthquake and needed extensive repairs. Plans for the establishment of a permanent mat were underway but were delayed due to fund constraints. On February 13, 1898, the mat was shifted to the garden house of Nilambar Mukherjee, which was closer to the land chosen as a permanent site for the monastery. On February 3, 1898, an agreement had been entered into for this land. The plot was ultimately secured for 39,000 rupees on March 4, 1898, with money donated by Swamiji's Chilean branch disciple Francis Henrietta Mueller. The land, measuring 7 acres, was 1/8 of a mile north of Nilambar Babu's garden house. The supervision of all new construction work at the new premises was done by Hari Prashana, later Swami Vijnanananda. There was a 1-story building for living quarters with 2 rooms on the northern side and another on the south, connected by a veranda facing the Ganges. A few trees surrounded the building. These included a mango tree, which still today is always referred to as Swamiji's mango tree. The 3 devdaru or pagoda trees on the southern side of the land on the northwest of Swamiji's temple also stand witness to the 125-year history of the mat. Swami Vijnanananda's task was to remodel the main building by adding some more rooms above, as well as one on the southern side. In this room, Swamiji spent the last few years of his life. Another building, with a couple of rooms above to serve as a shrine and a few rooms below, housing the kitchen, store and dining area, had to be constructed before the monastery could be shifted here. In 1901, Durga Puja, worship of the goddess Durga, was celebrated for the first time at Belur. 4 or 5 days prior, Swami Brahmananda had a vision of Mother Durga coming across the river from Dakshineshwar and stopping near the bilva tree in the Mat compound. Swamiji too had a vision of Durga Puja being celebrated at the Mat. The worship of the goddess was conducted in strict accordance with scriptural injunctions. The poor were sumptuously fed on every day of the puja. As a result of the celebration, the Orthodox members of the Hindu community in the neighborhood became convinced that the monks of Belur were truly Hindu sannyasins. That year, Lakshmi Puja and Kali Puja were also celebrated, and the tradition continues at Belur till today. In 1899, Sri Ramakrishna's birth anniversary was celebrated for the first time at Belur. A few disciples had begun celebrating this auspicious day in 1881, when Sri Ramakrishna was living at the Dakshineshwar temple. In 1897, Swami Yogananda had arranged a fire sacrifice and prayer celebration for the Holy Mother, Sarada Devi, on her birth anniversary. Since 1920, when she left her body, the festival is organized every year at Belur and the Holy Mother's house at Bagbazar, Calcutta. On this auspicious day, in 1821, the temple of Sarada Devi was inaugurated at Belur. On July 4th, 1902, after concluding all his activities for the day, Swamiji sat down for meditation in the evening and gave up his body through samadhi. On January 20th, 1903, Swamiji's birth anniversary was celebrated for the first time at Belur. On February 5th, 1905, the Vivekananda Society of Calcutta organized a mass meeting on the grounds of Belur, in which the main speaker was Rabindranath Tagore. On festival days, particularly Durga Puja and Kali Puja, and on the birth anniversaries of Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, and Swami Vivekananda, special spiritual programs are arranged at Belur and all branches of the Ramakrishna mission, in which thousands of people participate. Another kind of spiritual service offered by the Ramakrishna Mat and mission is talks and discussions given by the monks on spiritual topics. Retreats and religious gatherings are also organized at the centers for the benefit of devotees. Several branches conduct programs for the youngsters through recreational, spiritual, and service activities. Books on Vedanta, spirituality, and world religions, published in all major Indian languages and important languages of other countries from 18 publication centers, are of immense help to spiritual seekers. Devotees in large numbers also join the festivities at all branches. Distribution of Khichdi Prasad, food which is offered to God, is an integral part of all occasions. The monks are always alert that no devotee should return without partaking of prasad. The kitchens are equipped with modern amenities for this purpose.
Khichdi become a bhog. It is and prasad. It's a combination of the place, the environment where you have it, along with the combination of the spirituality. In Ramakrishna mission, for ages we've been having it, and it's really unparalleled taste. It is served in an environment where you have the richest of rich and poor people sitting together, and parallelly sitting together and having it, serving it, the seva bhav in that, the bhakti bhav in that, in the service itself, with the taste combination, it's unique and actually divine. They also make one particular dish which is the payesh, which is payasam, in the form of kheer, but that is divine.
Just a few hours before his passing on July 4th, 1902, Swamiji expressed his desire to initiate Vedic studies at Belur and in the Ramakrishna mission. To fulfill his dream, a Vedic school was founded at Belur in 1993 to provide Vedic knowledge to young students. Like the ancient ashram school, the Vedic school is fully residential, and students are provided education free of cost. The subjects taught here include grammar, poetry, figures of speech, spirituality, philosophy, science, and English.
Swami Vivekananda established the mission in 1897. In 1902, after 5 years of its establishment, he passed away. So naturally, one may wonder, is this the same Ramakrishna mission which has traversed long 120 years after Swamiji had passed away? Ideologically, we have not changed in the least. The spirit with which we offer our services, there also we have not changed in the least. But externally, surely, we have changed. But we have changed for the better, because we have expanded in numbers, in magnitude of our service over the 125 years, following the same ideals, same spirit of service. Just after establishing the Ramakrishna mission, he framed the rules of the rules for the monks of this Ramakrishna mission. Those rules bind us as well as guide us to remain the right kind of monks of this order, so that as an organization, this Ramakrishna mission keeps functioning to fulfill the cherished dreams of Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda.
Keeping Sri Ramakrishna's philosophy in mind, Swami Vivekananda wanted the Sri Ramakrishna temple at Belur to embody the salient features of the places of worship of different religious beliefs. He envisioned the structure of the temple, and Swami Vivekananda was the architect. The structure is a symphony in architecture, as it fuses motifs of Hinduism, Islam, and Christianity. It celebrates the diversity of Indian religions and resembles a temple, a mosque, and a church if viewed from different positions. It conveys the universal truth that Sri Ramakrishna believed in. The main entrance of the temple has a facade influenced by Buddhist styles, as in the Buddhist stupa at Sanchi and the main entrance of the Ajanta caves. The structure which rises above the entrance is modeled on the Hindu temples of South India with their lofty towers. The windows and balconies inside the temple draw upon Rajput and Mughal styles of northern India. The central dome is derived from the architecture of the Duomo, the Florence Cathedral. The sanctum is serene and austere, devoid of any ornate decoration, befitting the ideal of Sri Ramakrishna. He is sitting on a full-bloomed lotus sculpted in white marble. The temple is a visual symphony in stone. The foundation stone of the temple was laid on Sri Ramakrishna's birth anniversary on March 13th, 1926 by Swami Shivananda. Due to paucity of funds, the construction started over 5 years later, with substantial contributions by Miss Helen Rubel and Mrs. Anna Worcester. The temple opened on January 14th, 1938. Swami Vivekananda, the then president, himself carried the urn containing the master's relics from the old temple and established it here. Since that day, countless people visit the temple every day to share their pains and tribulations with Sri Ramakrishna and seek his blessings. They return peaceful, inspired, and strengthened in mind. The symphony is seen not just in the structure of the Ramakrishna temple, but also in the song accompanying the evening worship. When the ringing of bells and blowing of conch shells announce the onset of the twilight hour on the Belur grounds, the monastics and lay devotees gather in the temple hall to sing the Vesper hymn in adoration of Sri Ramakrishna. The cadences of the hymn, Kandana Bhava Bandhana Jaga, Vandana Vanditume, O breaker of bonds, we adore thee, are wafted by the winds across the vast expanse of the Ganges flowing by. The hymn was composed and sung by Swamiji himself at the evening prayer on the sacred birth anniversary of the Master in 1898.
If it is pure Yaman, only that scale, then you can say, he has taken an Indian raga, Indian-based raga, and combined both north and south, taking that Yaman, which is also, we have Kalyani, that same raga, we call it Kalyani. Then they're doing it multiple speed. It's a regular, it's one of those traditional things in Ragam, Tanam, Pallavi form. It's beautifully, it is mixed like that. But then there is also the Daivat, both Daivat there. So in Western music, even though you have modal music, sometimes you modulate, you use a foreign note, you use another note to just kind of give that, energy or attention. So you can really take that and harmonize and build it up very nicely. So this is basically a global melody.
Not only has Sri Ramakrishna's life provided the ideology of the Ramakrishna Math and mission, but it has also played the most active role in bringing into existence and giving organizational shape to the Ramakrishna Order, the mother institute of both the Math and the mission.
Then he gave these incredible teachings. It's like that you are children of immortal bliss. Don't think of yourselves as matter. Think of you are spirit. You are pure. You were never born, you can never die, giving this incredible message. It's like, what a breath of fresh air. Not saying that we're the only truth, saying all religions wend their way to the same goal. Americans love that. It's like, we're not saying we've got the whole truth and nothing. Every being has that truth within themselves. Every religion is wending their way to the same goal.
I must very clearly spell out the word inclusion, which is the basic tenet of Sri Ramakrishna. Like he says that every religion is true, all religions lead to the same goal. So he himself practiced all the religions. And this harmony of religion is not only preached at the religious or spiritual level of life. Even in ordinary existence, this harmony can be practiced. Sri Ramakrishna showed, Vivekananda showed that this harmony can be practiced.
The origin and growth of the Ramakrishna Math and Ramakrishna mission is a case of divine origin, in which Sri Ramakrishna played the most crucial and important role. The Holy Mother, Swami Vivekananda, and his brother disciples, both lay and monastic, also played their respective parts. For the last 125 years, the light of Sri Ramakrishna's philosophy and spiritual vision is being propagated by the invisible hands of Swami Vivekananda himself, working through the monks of the Sri Ramakrishna order. And the Ganges continues to be the silent witness.